I'm Marc Cuevas, and welcome to New Media Weekly. This week I have the privilege of speaking with Rob Barnett, founder and CEO of My Damn Channel. Welcome to New Media Weekly.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Let's begin with, tell me about your background before you arrived at web-based media.
I started in the radio business back in the 1970s, and I worked in rock radio for about a decade, and then at the end of the 80s, I went to MTV and started a 12-year run at that company, the first half at MTV, the second half at VH1, and when I started, it was music videos. Right. So I was one of the 5 or 6 people who got to sit in the room every week and go like this or go like that. And that was an incredible honor to be involved in that. Then I learned television and learned how to shoot and edit and light a room and then sit in that edit room till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and make shows. Then I moved to VH1. And I was there for the turnaround of VH1 in the mid-90s, which was an incredible thing to be a part of. We had this killer team of people that created shows like Behind the Music and pop-up video and storytellers. And
which are still a lot of the favorites.
We had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of great bosses and great teachers there. And I ran the series and specials division where about 30 producers reported to me making shows, and then I ended up as the programming guy that would decide when are they on and and how do we get ratings. So that was all great, and then I did a lot of entrepreneurial things in the early zeros. I worked for Martin Scorsese for a year on an incredible project called Martin Scorsese Presents the Blues, and learned a little bit through another great director friend of mine named Alex Gibney, a little bit about the movie business. Then I tried to make a movie with a guy named John Kerry who wanted to be your president. Right. And we followed him every day backstage with his staff. That was a trip. And then I ended up back in radio. So in my last gig before this one, I was, depending on how you look at it, I was the president of CBS Radio, or the idiot loser who had to replace Howard Stern. That was my job. And,
wow.
So there was some good and bad that happened during all of that. I worked with Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla. That was the good. And they threw me out, and I started My Damn Channel as an idea in '06, and we went live in '07.
How did you arrive at the thought that you wanted to create a web-based network?
Well, it was just brutally obvious to all of us in 2006 that this world was exploding. First and foremost, from an audience point of view, I mean, this behavior was becoming the most addictive new drug that any of us have ever seen. But on the business side, the moment that Google bought this company called YouTube for $1.65 billion, a lot of rocket ships went off in a lot of people's brains, and there was a thought that this might be in the next frontier. I mean, a couple of nights ago, Eric Schmidt called it the third wave, right, meaning broadcast, cable, internet. Right. And that third wave has taken the last, let's say, 5 or 6 years since that moment in 2006 to mature. It's still maturing, but it just became obvious to me as a guy who knew absolutely nothing about it that I needed to restart my own career and learn. And so that, I would say YouTube was the fire starter.
It was the catalyst.
Yeah.
Why My Damn Channel?
Why the name?
Yeah.
Well, probably 2 or 3 reasons. I don't think there's one. Probably the first main reason was to really send a message to the artists that we love and respect, and to say to those artists that there is a way now to end run some of the old Hollywood games that put you in a system of television networks and movie studios that's a little bit harder to navigate than working with a little company like My Damn Channel, where the artists can really get in the driver's seat, put their hands on the wheel, and take it where they want to go a lot easier than they can, say, if they're working at CBS or insert name of three-lettered monolith here. So the first reason was for the artists. The second reason was maybe a statement to myself that said, it's time to take on all of the good and all of the hard of running your own business, because I don't have anybody else to blame anymore.
Right.
And then I think the third, and probably as important as it is to the artists, it's important to the audience to let them know that they too can have a direct relationship with a network and with its artists. So as long as it took me to answer that, it took about 100 times longer to come up with it. Naming sometimes is one of the hardest things you do in this game, because you got to live with it forever. I always think about the band The Cars.
Right.
when you imagine the fights that those guys had, and then they just ended up with the stupidest name in the world, and it worked. So
it's because they had some of the best tunes in the world.
Yeah, they had the goods, right?
That's right. So, tell me about your relationship with YouTube.
Well, when we started the company in the summer of '07. We knew that we had to build three businesses all at once. The most important business is our studio. We produce almost everything you see originally at My Damn Channel. So we're a studio. The second business we call the network. That's mydamnchannel.com. That's the destination that we believed was essential to own and control and operate and give the artists, the audience, and the advertisers an experience that we were 100% in control of.
Right.
But we also thought on day one that it's kind of arrogant to think that we're going to become the biggest website in the world. You really can't do it in this game that you and I are in without YouTube. So we launched there on day one and knew that we were going to need to be on the biggest stage possible to see if the content was good enough to catch fire and gain traction.
How has the relationship grown in that time since?
Well, we've had great friends there, and they are the leaders, and they have been the teachers, and they're the ones with the most data.
Right.
So, there's 100 reasons to be there, but I'm not going to sit here and just kiss their butt the entire time. I mean, the rev shares never made a lot of people enough money.
Right.
It wasn't until this new big game began. I won't call it a game, I'll call it wave.
Right.
This next wave began, where content creators for the first time ever had the chance to receive a significant amount of funding to be able to do a hell of a lot more premium programming. We were as excited as everyone to know that possibility existed, and like many of our friends, we chased that thing, like a bear, and finally we're honored that we got picked. So now we're in this wave, and it's brand new. We've only started our new premium service maybe in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we're still in the early stages of it, but it's an exciting new way to work with them.
Like you just noted, you have a new schedule. It's very ambitious. Tell me about that. Tell me about what it includes and what the undertaking has been.
Well, my business partner is a guy named Warren Chow. He's the co-founder of the company. We started together. He's the chief operating officer. He's the money and the math.
Right.
And Warren came up with the idea to bring me back to my television life and said, look, I really think that the internet is so crowded. There's so much video. What if you, Rob, got some of the old rules and came up with something that walked and talked a little bit like television, that had a host, that had a destination time, that was, oh my God, live, and interacted with the audience.
Hi, I'm Beth Hoyt, and you're watching My Damn Channel live. Hope you have fun today.
We had initially quite an argument about it. I didn't get it at first. I felt like might be a little counterintuitive to the way that people use the internet, which is completely at will and on demand. But I sat with it for a little while, and then he won that argument, and we pitched it, and we were really, really surprised to see that at the time of both the pitch and the launch, there are very few people doing this. So it's a learning experience.
What have you learned?
Well, it's a little too early to say. But you know, since you asked, I'll give you stats. We've learned that in the first, I think it's now 5 weeks actually, we've increased viewership 25% on our site and on YouTube. We've doubled the amount of shares, likes, comments. Subscribers are growing at a rapid rate. And then the final thing we took a deep look at just a couple days ago is time spent viewing, which has also doubled. So far, so good, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you there's 100 million people watching it every day.
Right.
The numbers are starting, they're small because it's something that people aren't used to. But the was that graph, that chart, that line
Right.
is headed in the right direction.